think the honorable thing for our species to do is deny our programming. Stop reproducing. Walk hand in hand into extinction. One last midnight, brothers and sisters opting out of a raw deal.
Do not trust any friends or family members. I repeat, do not.
Lego sets, desks, fucking whatever. Pick your poison. Just happened to have a couple Xboxes, so she like bid against some guys and got it for $250. They retail for, it was like an open box, but they retail for $379, so plus tax. So I thought it was pretty good. So yeah, I got one fired up.
You got any games though, or like?
Well, I got my old games from like last generations. Like I got the Halo, the Halo in its entirety. You know, some Gears of War. I don't know. Yeah. Hockey. That's what I plan to do.
I think Chris is not satisfied with your.
Well, my game collection's a bit fucking. It's a bit limp dick. I understand using the old games is not nice, but. I do plan on getting that new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game though. It's $28, I think, the digital version of it.
I heard it's really good.
Shredder's Revenge. Yeah, it's like a weird 2D platformer, and I'm getting that. I'm just to say, like, I got a new console, I got a new game, you know.
Oh yeah, you have to.
Yeah, there's no choice.
Yeah, get the game with like 2D sprites that Super Nintendo could have handled.
Really put that fucking processor to work.
Exactly.
Casey Jones. Sad, but awesome. But I mean, that's what I play. Like that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Just an old fuck. Like am I gonna try and play fucking Fortnite or one of those other shooters? Like fucking. What do the kids play now? They play that. There's a new one. My brother told me what it was. I can't remember the name. He said it's like a combination of like Fortnite and Call of Duty. He's like, the kids play it so fucking fast, it just gives them a headache.
All that shit. I have no patience for that.
Well, that's where we're at. It just sound like a bunch of fucking Willie Nelsons now.
Yeah.
That's that's good. Speaking of Willie Nelsons, I guess. We're back. We're doing a little bit of the Sandman, being a bunch of fucking old fucks from the
90s.
I don't know. Well, no, it's September. Okay, so we're doing Volume 2, The Doll's House, the Sandman, Volume 2 of the trade paperbacks, but I guess it's also Volume 2 of the series. Issues number 9 through 16, September 1989 to June 1990. So we're powering into the 90s. Gaiman, Mike Dringenberg, Malcolm Jones third, pardon me. And I want to make a correction on what we said last time. I had the deluxe edition, and the deluxe edition is all recolored, these issues. The original coloring, which is not very good, I can see why they recolored it, was by Robbie Bush. So there's a lot of different versions of this book around, but there's a major recolored version now.
I actually had the joy, which I'll drop in our group chat, which is not going to help for podcast purposes, but I actually had the fun of reading this volume. I read half of it at work, so I read some on the Kindle app.
Okay.
We have Kindle with with Amazon. I helped shoot the fucking Blue Organ into space with my money. And I got to see the recoloring, and then my book doesn't have the recoloring.
Okay, all right.
My first 4 volumes, so it's actually very cool. Without the recoloring, the coloring is actually very good and charming in the original book, but a lot of backgrounds weren't rendered.
Exactly.
They just sort of brushed them over with like a beige or like just like a tone to sort of set a mood, and then they would just color the foreground character. Yeah. And in the full colored version, the every panel is like more realized, and it really looks a lot nicer. But it was neat to jump back and forth. Like I don't think it hurt. I don't think the coloring hurt the book maybe as much as they thought that they needed to recolor it, but that's just me.
I too, I read it recolored, and then I realized I had the old copy, and so then I read it again with the old coloring, and both work. I prefer the recoloring. I'll say that. But yeah, this is perfectly effective. I think the only reason they recolored it is because they also had Daniel Vozo do some recoloring, and Vozo is the primary colorist, I think, after issue 23. So I think for some sort of sense of continuity throughout the series, they went back and recolored, so that way there was a consistent palette. I guess, I don't know. It was unexpected. So anyway,
out.
Yeah, sorry,
I only
man.
read the old one. Yeah, but so Are you suggesting then that in the original artwork in Dringenberg's pencils that there are additional scenes that they just kind of like slabbed over with color because they didn't feel like doing it, or
no. Okay. Yeah, it's difficult to explain. It's just like he's able to use color to establish background more effectively.
Okay.
Different things are sort of brought to the forefront through the coloring. I'd have to show you sometime, but
I sent a couple. I sent
one
one page that where it was like noticeable for me. But I do know what you mean. But then part of it also is like a lot of dream state stuff is grayed out and muted with pencil work like deliberately. So I find the coloring doesn't, adjusting coloring doesn't do anything for those scenes are supposed to be like that, So, but that's, I don't know.
Yeah. So it's probably just some sort of production thing, like, or maybe an editorial thing. I don't know. Either way, that they both work. Go on, Chris.
Vertigo is amazing at wringing out every last dollar out of Sandman. So I mean, just for the sake of putting out another volume, damn it, I want.
No, hey, listen, you got a franchise. You want to reprint The Preacher, you reprint The Preacher. You want to reprint fucking Watchmen, hey, you go. Version 78, giver.
Another thing I was supposed to give a report on was sales on Sandman. So I don't have exact figures because that's not really available. But I know what ranking these issues got roughly. And so they would have been, when issue 8 came out, that's the earliest that I have numbers on. It sold 15,900 copies. So it's still very low. And that's ranked 67th. And so the best that Sandman's going to do, so far as I can tell, is start ranking 50th. So what is that's like 30,000? It's tough for me to get numbers, but that's kind of the ballpark that we're looking at.
What's that, like below Peter David?
Actually now they don't have it in front of me. Every once in a while I was like, what did they outperform? Like often he would outperform Daredevil, or kind of.
I'm more interested in what outperformed him, like in the 40th spot.
Yeah. It was often very disappointing. Maybe I can return to. I'll give us a little bit of that trivia next time that we a
little comedy piece.
Yeah.
And how that kind of brings us to an interesting thing about this volume is that it's really no exaggeration to say that it's the start of graphic novels as we know them. This is the first that when they thought about doing a way for people to get into Sandman, this was the first that they assembled. And originally they threw in issue 8 as well. But this Sandman brought me back into comics, like reading them in trade paperback form. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of the sales of individual issues were hurt by the idea that they would eventually package them in trade too.
It's hard to say. I mean, what I think implicit in that sort of question statement is that this comic ought to have sold better in individual form. Like if it wasn't for the trade paperbacks, the sales would have been 100,000, something like that, or even 50 or 60. And I don't know if that necessarily has to be the case. I think it's we kind of maybe are even talking about a different market altogether. Suddenly it shows up in bookstores or it shows up in other locations, and the sales on the trade paperback are not the people, not your Wednesday Warriors.
And Chris, do you feel like this was really a trade paperback story, or more of a big vision, like a Preacher vision?
That's interesting. Yeah, I think it's definitely a preacher story. It's a big vision.
Because it's a big vision, like with full continuity, right? Like he had in mind a story.
Yeah,
like
and it's not written in the way that people will do trades now, where it's like a compression, like that you're doing the 5 or 6 issues, and there's almost like a formula for the arc, like they perfected it to a digestible thing. This is messy. It's somewhat disjointed. This is honestly one of my least favorite of volumes of Sandman, but I like it. Like, don't get me wrong, but I think it's partially it's just that feeling that like things kind of hang together a bit loosely.
Oh, and I see. I found this to be a goddamn light year leap ahead of the first book.
Yeah, I think I kind of fall between the two of you in that it is, to my mind, it is an improvement on Preludes and Nocturnes, and then but at the same time, it's like, although my opinion of Preludes and Nocturnes was pretty low, and so this book I see kind of like a step up, but yeah, you were expressing, James. Sorry.
I just found it very clean, like a nice continuity. Like first I'm told the God story, which I guess that I'm on board with Chris, right at the start, because that issue is disconnected. But I guess it's not, because you're going back and you're adding the vortex, right?
Oh, it's also that woman that he came across in hell. Remember when he goes to hell and there's that woman like, "Won't you forgive me?" And he's like, "No, this is the story of how she got there." So
right. So that's connected. But I mean, for the bulk of the book, you get to follow Rose and her search for her little brother, and I mean that's tied in, like Morpheus is tied into that, and tied into into her dreams, and she's the vortex. The little brother's dreams are tied in, so you're sampling all that. Morpheus is still cleaning up his mess. He still can't find those two fucking dumbasses, Brute and the other guy.
Yeah.
And just it's very linear, and I like that. It's woven together nice, except for the 400-year-old guy. That's just sort of an add-in, but that was very enjoyable.
And I think
I don't know if you guys did, but
oh yeah, Cobb. What's his name again? Cobb? No, it's not Cobb. Hobb. Thank you. I wrote down Cobb for some reason.
Yeah.
I guess we'll talk about that when we get there, but I think that was like one of those situations when the artist was slow, they were going to have a late issue, and I might be wrong, but I think that it was kind of just, it was how they managed to fix things. I think Gaiman had always sort of wanted to tell that story, and he was like, fuck, we got Mike Zulli, we got a hole in the schedule, we got to give Mike Dringenberg a rest, because we also see Chris Bacallo pitch it for a little bit in one of these issues.
Yeah, I got him there with Chris is doing a great job having the little brother get the shit beat out of him.
Oh yeah,
and Morpheus is sort of tunneling his way into the psyche to get his two little bros out of there.
Yeah. So anyway, there was a I feel it is weird. The Hobbs story is like it just sticks out like a sore thumb. It's not unwelcome because I really like that character, and your love for that character is only going to sort of improve as the series goes on. At least that was my experience.
Oh, Hobbs coming back?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, spoilers. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. No, that makes me very pleased. I really enjoyed him.
I agree with both you guys. I think it's just the way that story interrupts the momentum of what's building with Rose and the serial killer convention, that I don't know, it just throws me a little bit. I think I'm wrong. Like I honestly, like, if I think about it intellectually, I think it's more that I have this feeling about it that is wrong when I break it down. Because you're right, it is another quest in a way. Like you've got it flows right out of the first issue. He's got these issues with a couple of denizens of the dreaming have gone missing. Rose is the vortex. He just has to follow her because they're eventually going to be pulled into her orbit, and she's kind of pulled along and encounters them. So it's like a quest in a way too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I know that it felt like a breakup and everything, but I appreciated it for a one shot, which I didn't like. The first Preludes and Nocturnes just felt like every bit of it was chop, that I'm gonna have to refer back to. This wasn't like that. At least it was just sort of like a like you said, James, like sort of a welcome break, and then I'm back to the serial convention, and the serial convention too. It got its own fresh start. It opened up at the convention. It gave you the uber dark Red Riding Hood story, and introduced the Corinthian, and it sort of had a good reboot anyway. Like even though it's like continuous to Rose's story. It sort of started fresh too. So the two books sort of went side by side, and as like sort of almost like fresh standalones, and then sort of everything tied back in by the end of that serial convention like intro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's better comics. I think maybe what Chris is maybe getting at, and what I'm definitely thinking is, and always have thought is, like, they're just not there yet. Not like they're so close.
Yeah.
And by like book 3, we're just like, it's just gonna fucking take off.
I'm really excited because this was really good. Like this is more Neil, like what I like about Neil Gaiman, and the dialogue was really, really nice. Like really, really, really clean to read. And and the layering between the dream world and Morpheus's agenda and following Rose was just neat and tidy. Like it was a good comics. It was a good smooth read, like through to the end. So that's more like more in keeping with like, fuck, I thought to myself, Jesus, if every one of these is like Preludes and Nocturnes, I'm not gonna be able to I'm gonna calf by book 4 here and be like, guys.
Yeah, go on. Yeah. We had faith. So I don't know, I guess we should so we got a general idea of everything here. Like, I guess let's talk a little bit about the opening story. Tales in the Sand, with I guess it's the origin. It's the story of, like I had already said, of how Nada ended up in hell, and I think now we're also getting into the territory that, Chris, you were talking about last time, where a lot of people will be of the opinion that Sandman is a story about stories, and you kind of get this here. There's like a fetishization of story. Like there's like, how many frames can I put something in? How many? And this is I feel like one of the first iterations of that, where Sandman is placed into like another in tradition and sort of reinterpreted within some sort of non-American, non-Western tradition.
Yeah, oral storytelling, right? And then there's this lingering sense of there's so much distance between these events, and some of these details surely must be added in over time, like some of these little stories that take place in within this legend. Like, that's how the I can't remember the bird. That's how this bird got
the Weaver bird. Oh yeah, man. Yeah. I and that's so perfect for myth, and one of the I know Gaiman now is associated so strongly with the concept of myth, right? I think that's safe to say. That's kind of his wheelhouse.
Absolutely.
And this has the tenor, and like reading him an interview, he was like, this was pure pastiche. This is not from anything. This is just based on my reading, and I'm just riffing. And it has so much, it feels right. Especially that little bit about the Weaver bird. You're like, oh shit, this happens all the time in myths, like that's, and that's why the sun does whatever. Or this animal has that, and it's kind of like this throwaway origin story contained within a larger cosmic narrative. And yeah, it's really impressive. I'm not sure what it adds up to in the context of Doll's House, and I don't know, maybe we'll get there, but I it's really cool. But then and this adds to the feeling of disconnection.
That's exactly it.
Yeah,
there's
like
so many of these little things where it's like I don't know thematically how this hangs together necessarily. Like it does loosely, like it's about again storytelling. Like there's the I guess the idea of like women being in this separate sphere almost, like at the end they're talking about how they're there's another version of the story, it's only for women's though, so like let's go home. Like
I do actually I'm glad you said that, because like this series, Gaiman talks about how like his audience, what he quickly realized was that his audience had a larger proportion of women and goths, obviously, but I mean like a larger proportion of women. And it feels like something that, me being a particular type of man, like of a certain age, white, blah blah blah, feel very weird saying this, but like this is you really detect the feminism of Neil Gaiman in Sandman in this book. The Doll's House is like its concerns are largely feminist. It is very much about women and I want their concerns. I don't know. It just like it has no interest in, even like Rose is not a hero, but she's very strong and very self-determined, and she sort of guides her own way. And she's in a world of threat from men, and in all fronts.
Yeah.
And tossed around in those seas. And anyway,
because there's almost something, there's almost something ominous about, not ominous, but there's just something disconcerting about even her landlord and his insertion into being overprotective. There's something unsettling about Gilbert there,
right.
and those are even the protagonist males. But yeah, I feel that too. Yeah,
and so the opening story is about what the frustration of male desire, and what will happen to a woman who denies the will of power, and they'll unjustly very
super
unjustly,
yeah
like Morpheus is I don't want to he's a fucking prick, and I think we've seen this from him before, but he's such a prick, like that's unforgivable. And I don't mean that to moralize. I think it's objectively wrong, what he did, like to cast someone into hell for thousands of years.
Well, the motherfucking sun dropped like a fireball on her city and burned it to glass because they got together. And it's almost like this like comedy barf reaction from the cosmos, like I suppose this is wrong.
Yeah.
Well, and
when your lover comes to you with that gas mask on, though, it's hard to say
it's true.
Morpheus as well is like I feel like we feel the real, like I got the real disconnect here in this story. Morpheus is not my like you guys described it as a story, like this is almost like a story of stories. Like Morpheus is not the protagonist in this book, or he doesn't feel like it. He's just a god that's sort of like narrating the background of dreams. Now you're not really following him, or you're not concerned for his well-being. He's not really part of this, in a way.
No, you're right.
In a way, he's sort of leading you through, but he's not there. Like that's not who you're looking to have any kind of like feeling in the story, which is different from the first book too.
You know what it is too? It's a bit of that like I mean, it's a lot of. I think maybe the model for writing something like this is that it's like Greek myth, where you have a hero or like a character who encounters the gods, and the god could either be grant a boon or turn you into a fucking tree, or like just anything could happen. That's sort of what Morpheus's role is in this one.
And I think throughout. Oh no, go on, James.
Yeah, no. I was gonna say, yeah, that's it. That's the feeling.
And I want to take a moment then to posit my or reposit my hypothesis, which I really want to keep coming back to, is that the real framing device, this is a three witches story, and this would, to my mind, potentially tie into the fundamental potential feminism of this text as a whole. It is ultimately like everybody's dancing within the story that is established by the three witches, and the three witches being themselves narrative devices from old DC comics. I think Morpheus is caught up in that frame. And he's not, James, you're right. Like if you think about even what does protagonist mean? It's like the person who's trying to accomplish something. And we see Dream trying to accomplish things, but ultimately we're watching Rose trying to accomplish something. And I think hers is primary. Her quest in this instance, so yeah, it's not as if Morpheus doesn't exist in this, but he is not the central focus, and arguably not the protagonist. I mean, I guess there could be more than one protagonist, but
yeah, he's fucking cool. He's cooler than Rose.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
Especially when he powers up. I'm angry. He's fucking awesome. Puts on his mask and his little fire robe, and he spanks that ridiculous Sandman replacement guy.
Oh,
Monster, you'll never get past me. Who are you? I'm the Sandman, and he just fucking he got kind of busts a gut. He just cracks up. He thinks these fucking guys, and then he absolutely ruins those two guys too.
Brute and Glob.
Brute and Glob.
The escapees from the dream world. Yeah,
they get fucked by him. He's overpowered too. He's a real pain in the ass, and he leaves everybody in the fucking dungeons, and he's cruel, man. That's what I mean. You're not rooting for him. You're not. I don't really give a shit if he gets from end to end on his quest, like you say, right?
What I love about Morpheus is that, and the way he's written, is that his morality just is alien, or just it's just not our own. Like, he has guidelines and boundaries, and obviously duty is a huge part of it, but he's so offended. I think he's more offended that Brute and Glob have overstepped their bounds and tried to create a realm of dream within Jed than he is about the kid. Well, he really doesn't give a shit about Jed per se.
No, he really doesn't. First of all, I just want to rewind a second. That scene when he's like, and it's my move, and he's got his his Giger fucking alien gas mask and his fire robe, that is the stupidest goddamn thing in the entire universe.
I agree.
Oh no, that's so cool.
Okay,
it's such an
cool. You guys thought it was dumb.
It looks great, but it's just like he's always rewind even further. Dringenberg's so fucking good. We haven't even talked about the art because we keep talking about the story mostly and the coloring, but this is exceptionally illustrated. And as good as Gaiman may be, I don't think this comic works at all without this illustration. Without Dringenberg and Malcolm III, or Jones the third, pardon me. Like some of these scenes, like when Lucien is going through, and I know, James, you didn't like when you had to turn the comic, and
I cried about that right in the start. But it never happened again.
Yeah, but I'm always a fan when that happens. I like to destabilize the text, so to speak, and just Dream in his hall, saying hello to Lucien, and he looks all everything's so ornamental in the background, and everything has structure and place, and it's really exceptional art, and far more than I ever appreciated when going through this as a younger person, and even like the last few times I read it, or not few times, the last time I read it, I don't think I really appreciated what Dringenberg was bringing to the table. Yeah.
I know we're jumping around a lot, but I'm looking at the Fortress of Desire and like the sort of like just creepy and sinister looking, the statue in the middle of nowhere. It's like this flayed open heart, like and just horrific looking. It's really
Actually,
cool.
That's a good transition because we can get back on track from that. Because the threshold. First of all, the threshold it's the stupidest description. It contains 2 eardrums larger than a dozen marble ballrooms. You're like, that wasn't a good idea. That's like your worst bit of writing ever, Gaiman.
That passed me by, but yeah, when you pointed it out, it's a little awkward.
Yeah, but we're really have we encountered Desire yet? Is this
first appearance?
No, okay, all right. So this is Desire, another one of the endless. And so,
James, actually, what did you think about the endless? This being your first reading.
Sorry, what do you mean?
Like just like this being your first encounter with Desire and despair.
Oh yeah. That I mean, I guess I feel like that's gonna be like the tie-in to the other books is gonna be like now I'm gonna like there's gonna be desire, despair, death, and I'm gonna go through all those and I you got that little tiny dip of desire right at the start.
Mm-hmm.
Where she was like, "I'm watching you, brother," and then at the end, she was the villain or whatever, and he threatened her in like a pretty aggressive way, just at the end of the book, and then he was like, "You think you could stand against me, against death, against destiny?" And then, but did we get destiny in this book?
Not yet.
No. So then you're getting kind of teased for that this is all going to run into each other, and then all of that's going to play like a bigger role as well.
Yeah, he's so good at that, at the little teases that like become big payoffs, and it's going to be one of those cases.
Yeah. So I mean, I know it's a big fucking story. So like I'm okay with that being like a little teaser. I just thought it was like it was like 3 pages. So it was an afterthought kind of. And then it doesn't feel like you said, I don't know like for spoil, like I don't mind having it spoiled. I don't know if anybody else listening does, but like I don't think it doesn't feel like we're following Rose again after this. This was sort of a standalone, right?
You're right.
I couldn't recall. I
don't think we ever see her again.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt that way when she dyed her hair. I thought, oh, this is sort of a wrap up now.
Yeah.
They're gonna go running off into a field, her and her brother. Things are solved. There's Glob and Brood are resolved. Sandman's cleaning up his yard. I'm getting introduced to these other characters in his sphere, and then we're gonna kind of push off from there. Right?
And she mattered to him by virtue of being the dream vortex. And now that that's dealt with, there's really no, she gets to live her life.
Right, exactly. And then he gets to sort of push off with whatever his next sort of concern is with his sphere or whatever, right? So that's the I mean the book's it's phenomenal. Like I really liked it. I thought it was very good. So if it climbs up from here, I'm extremely excited for.
Yeah, I'm excited for you, man.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be a good.
Let's not hype it too much.
You know what? If everything's about this good, because this was like it was good enough that like the second I picked it up only 2 more times to finish it, and that was like that's big. That's good. It usually bodes well if I go through it in speed. That I don't get hung up on dialogue or get hung up because the story's choppy or
I wanted to say about like just I love the conception of the endless, and I just think that these representations are just so powerful. Like like first of all, good on him for making Desires like the villain, like the sinister force, and like Despair too, like that fish hook that she just cuts her face with continually. Oh, it's awful. But like, yeah, they feel almost like deep mythology. Like they feel like they're almost something from the collective unconscious, but they're, as far as I know, his unique creations. So good job, Neil.
Yeah, I wonder what because no, I know it's as stupid as he realized that there was a bunch of D characters. Like he was just like, there's death, fine, destiny, fine, dream, and then he was like, oh, what else, and so then he just kind of he built from there, and so that makes it all the more remarkable that it works, and that there's something to put your hat on there, because you end up like thinking like, okay, yeah, if these are, he really signposts it when, like, what does in issue number 8, what is when Death is giving him shit, she calls him like the appallingest excuse for anthropomorphic personification on this or any other plane. So there's an awareness, that they're anthropomorphic personifications of some larger concept. And so, like, what does it mean? And does it help think about the series to think about like why are Desire and Despair so hell-bent on ruining Dream? I'm not sure why that would be. And I don't know, maybe it's maybe I forget, and maybe something was going to be revealed later, but I like on a basic metaphysical level, I'm not sure.
I think it must just be in Desire's nature to follow the impulse. It's just like, it's possible to do it, so why not? It's fun. It's a diversion.
I guess that's fair, and and you're not going to do that with Death, I guess, based on what we've seen. We haven't met Destiny yet, but Destiny already exists in the DC universe, so we got the sense of what he's like.
Yeah, I do feel like that's a little soft, though, like in terms of reasoning for something this big.
Yeah, I feel that Gaiman's a better writer, and we're gonna get something later that, again, I just don't remember, like some moment where she was like, I'm gonna get you for this. But it could very well just be that she wants to play games with his heart, because she can, in the way that families needle each other, and this is what that looks like. This is inter-sibling rivalry.
Yeah, because it's been going on for, like, there have been multiple plots against him. Not of being the first. Like, it's implied that she had a hand in that affair.
It doesn't feel like he's going to tolerate that, though.
No. Yeah. Well, I don't know.
There's conflict.
Yeah, it's complex. But as James, you're starting to notice, like, everything, and as we're sort of uncovering, like, everything's building. Like, there's always a respect for the past throughout this entire series, and the dominoes are falling, and so whatever happens at the end, my recollection is that, like, it just feels like, oh, it was fucking inevitable. Everything was all there.
It's really built like a proper Shakespearean tragedy. I was thinking, complete with Morpheus's pride being key to his character.
Yeah, it's classic, hubris, all that. I don't even know if you'd need Shakespeare for it, but
true.
Yeah, and I
like a tragedy. But obviously Neil respects Shakespeare, and is very much on his mind. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a model.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, all right. So Dream and Despair, we're going to see more of them later. We got the various dreams that have escaped. We've got the revelation of Unity Kincaid's having, like, we found out that in early on, speaking of everything from the past being respected, there was that sleeping woman who was raped and had given birth and it was all hushed up, and we find out it's, Rose is the granddaughter of that woman. Is that right? That's right.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's on the quest for Jed, and in the meanwhile, the Corinthian. We don't know it's the Corinthian, although I guess we can really. I would wonder. Did you know it was the Corinthian, James?
What do you mean?
The dude doing all that torturing. We always saw him only from his perspective, and he would come in like into the bathroom, and that kid's all tied up and.
Oh yeah, I knew it was because they were toying with the glasses.
Okay, all right. Okay, I wasn't sure how obvious that would be.
Yeah, it was obvious. It was deliberate and obvious.
Okay.
And then the Corinthian was also really cool. Also, the cereal convention was hilarious.
Yeah.
And clever, and also like added stakes and grotesquerie, and I was happy with that. That they accidentally like ended up in the same hotel, and you were just like, oh fuck, this is not a great scenario. But it was all very cool. Just like an oddity, you know what I mean? Like it's almost like not a super clever idea, but is.
Well, I would say that it's not. I hate the serial killer convention. Like
you do.
It's kind of, I don't hate it, but I really don't. I don't like this. I don't think it's particularly clever. It's kind of a fun, like he plays with it. It's dark humor. He gets some juice out of it. It's not done badly, but I've never really cared for it. And to hear Gaiman talk about like when he first conceived of it, he was so excited. He's just like, oh, no one's thought of this yet. And then, he did all this serial killer reading and stuff like that. So that way, like he did so much research. So that way he could have like some sort of verisimilitude. And I was like, you put too much work into a bad joke that lasted too long.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
I'm between you guys. In fact, I feel like I always feel like I don't like that issue, but then reading it through, I'm like, this works pretty well. Like, there are parts of it that are overwriting. I don't like the beginning. Just stuff seems like I don't know, just a young writer's super excitement about it. But overall, I think it works really well.
Yeah. I'll say it doesn't work badly.
I did like the story how he was just so excited. He's so worried because he had so many issues to go before he could do that. And he's like, someone's gonna think of this idea. Someone's gonna put it all together before.
Okay. Yeah. Well, no. Well, what's Alan Moore up to at this time? He's no. It's not till later till he's doing From Hell, or he might be working on From Hell at this time. I wish I knew the answer to that better. Anyway,
From Hell's a little later.
I think it's it must be a little later because this is still. But I know that. Okay, I won't go down that alley. But they were always just looking for that one dark concept. That funny scenario that also was fucking awful. Horrific. I suppose it's.
So basically, just what you're getting at is that, like, this wasn't it. This wasn't the nightmare scenario. It was like more. It was lighter hearted. It was more of a gag, and nothing happened to anyone except for a character that wasn't important.
Oh, the journalist guy.
Yeah.
I love that there's all these metatextual games that Gaiman's playing here, and they're really fun. The serial killer that he claims to be is someone who appeared and was killed in Swamp Thing. So it was like a little nod to
oh, right. Yes.
Yeah. I'm also thinking of the when Jed's in his little Brute and Glob create this dream world within his mind, and he has these little adventures, but they're all drawn in this Winsor McKay like little Nemo style. And like really like lighthearted until as he I'm falling, mother, falling to the ground, oh, and then shut up, you little bastard, or I'll really give you something to scream about. Just that brutal reality of his situation, being trapped in a basement, like just all these little contrasts. And that the other big one, that like goofy Sandman character was actually like a 70s attempt at a Sandman series that used that guy, and it was I think it was Jack Kirby illustrating it. I could be wrong about that, but it didn't go very well. It was sort of like, you know, campy and all that. So
Really?
Yeah, and just Neil taking all that and saying like, here I'm retconning all this shit. Like, this is my Sandman, but here's this little fuck like defending the dream world, and Morpheus has his laugh at this guy's expense. So good.
Yeah, we're going to see so much of that. Like we act as if Morrison invented, incorporate, and transcend. But you know, that's a Moore thing. That's definitely a Gaiman thing, particularly in like and we're going to see it, you know, again actually in the next trade paperback, in Dream Country. Anyway, yeah, you'll you know, like there's some deep continuity cuts that he seamlessly weaves, you know, into, because he's the dream weaver, right? So he weaves it into the thing. I wanted to talk about Jed for a little bit. That poor little fucking kid. Jesus Christ.
Oh man, yeah, he had a bad go.
Yeah, just the more I think about it, the more I'm like, God, that's awful. Like, this is just fucking terrible. Just,
the little hamster, like when all the hamsters escape, and he's like this.
Oh, the verbal gerbils.
Yeah. Just like ripping it off.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Oh God. Yeah. He's just in hell. And even like the boiler casts this like horrific shadow over him.
And that there's one panel where his uncle's like punching him, and it's just like the way that his
the gut punch.
It's like driving right into his chest.
Just brutalized him.
Yeah.
I thought, you know, okay, nobody calls social services on me, but just I was thinking about like, what if I hit Matthew like that? Like, what would that like? What would that fucking be like? You know? And I was just like crumpled,
breaking ribs,
child.
Sure.
Yeah,
exactly. And the kid would never be the same. Even
No,
after one of those, and it's implied that this guy's like beating him like this consistently.
Yeah. And just like collecting the child welfare check. Keeping them.
Fuck yeah. What a charm.
And that horrible suggestion that it's all like, you know, Groot and Glob are manipulating it to some extent. Like, I'm sure these people are awful, but that you know, they have this, when the uncle and aunt are thinking about it, they're like, you know, they know it's important to protect this child for some reason, but you know, they also get their money based on it too.
And James, if you don't mind, like, Lita is going to be back. The woman who's like, I'm going to be back for your baby. Yeah,
that's okay. That's okay with me. That was fucking dark too.
Yeah.
Fucking mutilates the Sandman guy. You should count your blessings that you got to spend an extra couple years with him. He's fucking gone. He gets put away like a goddamn Indiana Jones villain. And then she's like, what about me? Find your own way home from this dank piss basement. Peace out, homies. Fuck, this guy's gone.
Yeah, I got something else to do. Got to meet up with my friend Hop.
God, I know this guy's on fire. He's not. I don't know. Yeah, he definitely has his own agenda.
Well, it's a remarkable, like, again, this gets back to the skill of Gaiman in this, is like, he's still so charming. He's still so cool. And
it's true, yeah.
Yeah, but you watch him do these fucking awful things and you're like, Jesus Christ, that's awful. Well, guess I hope he comes back. You know, like, I just want to see more of this guy just doing some awful shit. Talking about duty and stuff.
Yeah, Lita, I think, is the closest that you get to like a Heinrich Ibsen Doll's House illusion. She's sort of like, she's living this dream inside the dream world, and you know, her husband gets to be a superhero. Hector knows everything. She's totally invested herself in this traditional role of being this mother, this pregnant woman. But that sort of like burgeoning awareness, like I was just thinking, like maybe like I should have had the baby by now. Like 2 years.
Yeah, it's got it. You know, again, getting to this sort of feminism of the text, like this idea that she's just been sort of like completely fucking disappeared as a person into a social role and kind of kept in stasis within that space, you know, like unable to grow, unable to escape, unable to do anything.
The issue is called Playing House. It's
Right.
I think
Okay.
I think it'd be fair to say that play is about the facade of normality and sort of like the putting up appearances, and that's very much what's going on with her.
Yeah.
The Ken and Barbie character too, actually, really.
Oh yeah, you know what? Okay, that's another reason I don't much care for this trade paperback is, and I feel I'm gonna get booed for this, but like I don't like any of the people at that goddamn house. I don't like Zelda and Chloe or whatever. I don't like Ken and Barbie. I don't care about their fucking dreams.
I think it's charming.
Yeah, well that's it.
Yeah,
like,
I thought it was like a neat, like a almost feels like fucking Bumpo at Punisher's house. Bit,
yeah, well, you know, and I'm not a fan of that either. Right?
Yeah, you didn't care for that arc.
In fact, James, other James, did you detect? I felt like this time reading it, I saw the seeds of Coraline in that whole setup, where there's the big house, like all these kooky characters and neighbors, and there's this sort of supernatural menace hanging over it.
Yeah, and everyone's dreams kind of are their own, like, battles that they're fighting, and you could do that. You could have Coraline and that whole alternate mom, sort of like it almost felt like Zelda's spider dreams or whatever. If that makes sense.
It does.
Sorry, and I don't know anything about Coraline, so I don't know if this helps.
That's careless. Yeah.
No, I don't know. Me and Gaiman, like he's not my favorite. You know, as much as I like him, he's not. Okay, so I learned a bit more about his biography, and I don't know if this helps us do anything, but I just thought I would share it because it's interesting. His parents were Scientologists,
yes,
or something to that. Okay, you know about this,
yeah.
And then there's this idea, there's this notion that implication, let's say, that he himself is a sort of a victim of a weird abuse, a very tense and difficult household, and I don't know the specifics. Perhaps there's specifics out there, and maybe Chris, you know about them. Maybe I don't.
No.
But yeah, and it's Either way, though, he's got, like, he's had some things that happened to him, and that's what. I understand that Coraline has maybe something to do with that, or maybe another one of his stories.
It wouldn't surprise you that The Ocean at the End of the Lane all kind of deal with.
There we go.
This kind of weird house, like, or not a weird house, but like a house with that sort of setup. So I think there's definitely something to whatever degree biographical in that setup.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought I'd bring that up.
Yeah.
Because it kind of shocked me because Gaiman's, and I understand that the trauma doesn't define individuals and it doesn't like necessarily produce fucked up individuals, but he's always struck me as like hyper calm and hyper like aware, like every time there's any interview, I'm just like, how can you give that response? Like, that's so considered, that's so like aware and like being present, and yeah, and it's difficult for me to tie the two things together, like see the two things together, but that's just kind of like a bias on my part, and so it kind of stands out to me. Anyway, the house thing, I don't much care for it. So,
fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we'll be if this jumps ahead, actually we didn't talk about Hob yet.
We should probably talk about And of Good Fortune.
The Zuli issue. James, did you like the Zuli art, or what did you think of it? When you go back in time? Yeah,
Not really.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay. It was okay. You know what I liked about everyone's art in this is, like, even though that was sort of a weird step off, it wasn't bad and it wasn't off brand. Like it seems like the artists are all sort of, like trying to keep a flow. Like without being like, don't make me talk about him,
Which guys?
without Van Skeevering me.
Oh, I see Van Skeevering. I was thinking about Butch Guice in that Thor run that we did when there was all that.
Yeah, he took a big shit in the middle of the book too.
Yeah. I wanted to.
Who are these guys? Like, they sign up, they're like, yo, we're doing a fucking omnibus. There's 80 fucking books of this gorgeous artwork here that you can reference for yourself. I'm fucking Butch Guice.
Okay, all
right. On
right.
the page. That's what I feel like the guy's doing.
Okay, relax.
Sam.
What I wanted to say to what I wanted to say to our audience is that I'm sorry, Butch Guice, you're actually a pretty good artist, and I don't know what happened in that issue. Like, I saw some of his other stuff, and I was like, holy shit, he's actually really good.
Now you know I gave you the dramatization.
Yeah. Something went wrong. Something fucking went wrong. He must have been in a rush because like in comparison to what he's capable of doing, not that he's as good as the other. Anyway, whatever. Mike Zulli doesn't come in and fucking Van Skeever us here.
No, he doesn't. He comes in nice and clean, and also even though there are obvious differences in his art, because we're going back in time, centuries, we get to have that art disconnect to be associated with like a timeline shift also, which is easier to palette.
Oh, I like that, yeah.
But
it's true.
He's really good at establishing a sense of place, is all I wanted to say. Like, I feel like, each phase of the pub looks really different, and like instantly I'm there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the worst part he does is the modern part.
No, I like that. I like that when I fucking get right straight into the 80s, and I'm
like really into the 80s.
Yeah. Morpheus, I set up a line here on the table for us.
Yeah,
we're gonna do a rippy.
Yeah, very possible.
I discovered cocaine.
Yeah. And
it'd be funnier if he fell off the wagon again.
They still managed and so there's a through line, and there's one for the nerds. You get your Shakespeare, you get your Marlowe, you get your Spencer. Chaucer. Sorry, not Spencer.
I'm a Chaucer man here.
Yeah.
By the way,
yeah.
because I have 2 credits of Chaucer and like spent my time on this shit. Just a fun fact that when they talk about, I think when we first see Hobbes, he's talking about like, women to sleeve or something like that. And like, that was like the ultimate, insult or just like profane phrase in that time. So I really appreciate that. Shit, I don't have the exact quote, but he's like standing up talking loudly, like, death's a mug's game. I got too much to do. There are women to sleeve. Basically, it just means fucking, but like it was like just like ruder than that.
Right. Yeah, I see. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, and it gets, again, it's a story about stories, and so Gaiman, like Chaucer, that's a framing fucking factory. I'm surprised actually he doesn't do any Boccaccio throughout any of this. It's like the only thing that he didn't touch on.
Yeah, they're similar.
And Shakespeare, framing device. He's just like, again, just like framing device and new contexts, and this art works extremely well for this context. Like James said, it doesn't, other than the fact that it just sits like a fucking turd in the middle of an otherwise like well-flowing story. It's a great one shot. Like, this is a great one shot. We learned so much.
Yeah, and I could have. I'm with you there. I could have stomached this. This would have been maybe nice at the end of this book.
Yes.
I'm even, there's even no real excuse, like in terms of like continuity, to not change the flow of it.
Yeah.
Why not?
Other than they were doing month-to-month books. Like, again, I think this is just largely an accident. The area that like the space that it was placed in, it was just like, this is what we need to do in order to fucking like put a book out. And sometimes that's what comics is. A lot of the time, serialized fiction, that's what it is. Like, you never know. Someone gets sick. Someone, who knows? And then the whole production the industrial production, because again, this is meant to be like this goes to press. It's an industrial line. They got the writer, the artist, the inker, the blah, and everybody's working together in the industry. And sometimes the machine fucks up, and then good editorial figures out a way to make art out of even that fuck up. So they certainly get it. This is a hell of a story. This is
yeah. I think Gaiman said that it's his favorite, that he wrote for this.
It gives you, it adds a little charm to Morpheus too, which doesn't hurt, considering what a fuck he is.
Yeah, because I think something that this volume is looking at too is what's the relationship of divinity to humans, or to the gods to in this world, and we see that Morpheus actually does depend on people. In the end, we're gonna see, Morpheus tells Desire, we're not their plaything, or you're not their plaything. So it's almost like we're their playthings.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that means exactly, but it.
Well, I'd like to actually. I know, again, we're jumping around a lot, but I think that is something I wanted to talk about. So we might as well. So, what does it say? Desire's thinking about it afterwards. It walks the threshold, its citadel and its protection, and Desire wonders, what did he mean? We are their toys. And then later on it says, if I thought, human beings are the creatures of desire. They twist and bend as I require it. If I thought otherwise, I would crack, like delirium. And there's the first reference to delirium, I think.
Yeah.
Or I would abandon my realm, like our lost brother. So there's also another reference. There's a lost brother, but there's already Dream. The first thing that happens to him in this is he's trapped for 40 years. He's already cracked. There's this idea that he's she's I can't think like that, or I would crack, and the implication is that Dream is already cracked because he started to think like this, and so he's so either he's going to fall apart, where the implication that delirium fell apart, or he's going to abandon his realm. There's a big change happening, but she's not really recognizing that because she can't recognize it in herself, but it's there, expressed sort of indirectly. But what I wanted to say about Hob is it's kind of a double standard, because it's not the same as the Nada situation, but we've seen Dream be capricious, really awful to people for just because. And then there's that moment when he's so offended by Hob. Hobbs you need a friend, you're lonely. And he's like, how dare you, and he just storms off. And I know it's weird to say, but that feels like Dream as we've seen him up until now. That's not his MO. If you offend him like that, he's going to fuck you up. You're done. He's going to do something really awful to you. And the fact that he just sort of storms off feels weird in the context of everything that we've seen. He's like, how dare you? He's.
Yeah, I guess except that it's true. So, maybe it's just the indignity of being found out, and just wanting just to escape it rather than punish it.
Yeah, but again, if the character's primary characteristic is pride.
Yeah.
And he's
yeah, you're right. Yeah, because Nada tells him something true as well. That we can't be together. The sun is destroying the world. So
that's right. Yeah.
Peace out, dude.
Yeah, and I understand that that's Desire had something to do with that or whatever, but it still feels I know it's weird, but it feels unearned. The only reason it works is because we're just so charmed by the story.
Yeah.
And that's not really a problem. This is only something that emerges when you're like, hey, wait a minute, this is inconsistent. But nonetheless, that's what happens when you read the book a bunch of times over several years. You get dumb thoughts like that. Yeah. Okay. So serial killer convention. Well, I guess, we've been at this for a while. Let's, final issues. The final two here. Into the Night. Because I guess they've dealt well. I don't know. Do we want to talk about the Corinthian and the wrap up?
I think I do. Yeah. I
Okay.
feel like that's
There's something to say
thing.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Please do.
Well, James, did you have anything to thoughts on the conference overall?
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I thought the whole serial killer convention idea was fun, and and you knew, because it was a bunch of unstable people that were going to build into something awful, and the Corinthian was just I didn't feel like he was that important. He was just sort of like the lead freak in the freak show, kind of, and then he was just dispatched by Morpheus, just decided to hit up the audience. Yeah. And then he was just immediately dispatched. And then I guess it's implied that Morpheus does away with all these guys.
No, I don't think so. All he does is strip them of their. So when he did a bunch of research on serial killers, I read this in that Sandman companion book. The thing that struck him most of all was this constant theme that these serial killers build up this delusion about themselves. They have a rich or active inner life where they cast themselves as victims or have all these justifications for why they're doing what they're doing. So what he does is strip them of that illusion, so that
he strips them of their sort of inner daydreaming or whatever,
yes,
where they're justifying themselves.
Exactly.
And then they sort of go and stagger off into the night, but then sort of disappear into nothing.
He just gives them existential dread. It's there you go.
That sucks.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the Corinthian, I don't know. I don't know if him being supernatural really added anything to that.
I really like the just the idea that again, Morpheus having this different morality, that what offends him is that he's boring. He gave him all the potential as the nightmare of nightmares, and then it's just sort of he gives him this disappointed dad speech of
you're eating eyes and you pulled a fucking switchblade on me. Oh man, I gotta
you've
start
convinced
over.
people to kill others. Yeah, exactly.
And that's kind of the thing where that's kind of the thing where Morpheus gets away with being a prick, but isn't, because he's operating on a level we don't understand. He's adhering to rules that don't apply to mortals, and he's just frustrated,
Yeah. And he's an artist of sorts, really. That's, we've seen this over and over again. When he's creating the nightmares on the shore.
We see that nightmare with the faces wide open, which is very cool. And they're like, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm just making a new nightmare down here."
Yeah.
Down in my art studio.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Corinthian was supposed to be his masterpiece. All he did was, prey on people and convince other people to do it. And it's no, not good enough.
Yeah, and it's weird. First of all, this is the Black Mirror. Good for you, fella, for coining that phrase so early. A nightmare created to be the darkness and the fear of darkness in every human heart. A black mirror made to reflect everything about itself that humanity will not confront. But look at you. You've done fuck all. But it's just why is he doing that? I guess that's where I end up sort of contemplating, what is it about the function of dream, and why does he create nightmares, and why is that sort of his art, and what does it? You end up spending time with this character, and you start thinking about okay, so what you try to attach sort of, he thinks of himself as a duty bound creature, so what is his duty? What does he think he's really doing here? I don't have an answer for that question, but it kind of begs that question, and it kind of makes you want to think about that.
I think it might be just potential, to explore potential, because the dream realm is so amorphous, right? So it's what can come out of that, and he's almost more of a static figure that kind of says no enough, or imposes rules on it when it gets out of hand.
Hmm. Yeah, and maintains boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very rule bound. What does he call the dreaming as sort of an organized chaos? When he talks about like what happened to the last vortex that got out of hand, it broke down the barriers of the organized chaos of the dreaming. And yeah, well, they also call him the shaper. We're going to see that later. There's something if you go, I guess, shit, this is, you go back to Genesis, someone separates the waters from the land. And that's kind of what, but he separates the dreaming from the reality.
Yeah, or maybe like reality has its basis in dreaming. Like, there's like sort of some sort of like chaotic soup that like, if there's dreams, then it can find form in reality.
Yeah. And and I guess maybe if we fucked around with that idea for a little bit, then maybe desire and despair make a little more sense as antagonists. This idea that maybe, I don't know. Anyway, let's put that aside. This is just the sort of thing that Gaiman invites us to think about without actually spending any time to think about it, which is fine. I mean, that's exactly that's world building. Like fucking A+, A+ world building.
I just wanted to tease out the line too of again, going back to the idea of storytelling, that fairy tale that Gilbert tells.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love the art in that. The wolves look so feral, like it's just kind of built out of negative space, and it's just it's that story of Red Riding Hood. But in that version, it's a story of innocence and transgression and taboo, and it's like foreshadowing. I guess it's like touching on the deepest like savage primal forces, which is of course the serial killer. Like it's kind of foreshadowing what's to come. So like it's a story about where they are, and just kind of setting it up that way. And it's something that kind of goes back deep into, I don't know, our collective memory. But
those, I think it also makes stories a lot more dangerous. Like when you start thinking, like we don't need to get into a discussion about this because it's a fucking parenting rabbit hole, and no one wants to listen to us talk about that. But
fair.
You think about Grimm's fairy tales, you think about the sort of as we understand them to be, and like the early versions, and just like many fairy tales are just fucking grotesque, so awful and so weird. And this version of that we get of Red Riding Hood, which he says, like, I'll tell like Gilbert's telling the story, Fiddler's Green, I'll tell you an original version. And she's like, that's awful. And he's like, I'm afraid so. There are earlier versions that are even worse. And like, yeah, what are the childhood stories of people who died at 30 and had
right.
and faced death constantly, and like slept in the same building as their parents who were fucking, and there was no separation of private and public. There was no, you'd see dead people on the street, you'd lose your teeth by the time you're like, just people living at subsistence level. Like their stories are going to be so fucking raw. And they're not going to bat a fucking eyelash if the big bad wolf calls you a slut in the middle of the story, because like you heard it down the street the other day because you had to get your dad from some sort of alley because he got trashed one night. Anyway, it's just like it's a dark place. Like it just it's both classical and fucking savage at the same time.
And what is it about kids that thrill to that idea too? That lead in, like, tell me more.
Yeah.
It's just like ingrained in human nature, right? I actually and going on with that wolf idea too, just that that image of the wolf gets refigured in Funhouse, or Funland, the serial killer who's got like the wolf ears on and that shirt, which was actually, it was actually supposed to be like Disney,
Mickey
like
Mouse.
yeah, Mickey Mouse, and they openly talked about how he preyed on kids at Disneyland, because there's that thing where he's talking about like, oh yeah, they just cover it up because like nobody wants to think that this place could be awful, but Vertigo got involved with the they were afraid that Disney might come after them, so they made a few changes, but the wolf thing works really well too. So
yeah, I want to again, this is going to seem like a pedantic distinction, but just so the audience knows that we know the score, Vertigo doesn't exist yet. It's not going to exist till issue like 23 or something like that. Warner Brothers definitely stepped in and they were like, "Ooh, don't do that." But because the House of Mouse is certainly litigious. I do really like that the way that he explicitly connects like the big bad wolf and Funhouse when he attacks Rose. Where is it? There is a moment when, or maybe there isn't. Maybe I just remembered there being a moment when he like literally looks like a wolf hanging over top of her, but maybe that didn't happen at all.
yeah, I and that like when Dream like blows puts him in his coma state or whatever, like he dreams of the children he's killed forgiving him. Oh, that just gave me chills. It's horrible. He's the friendly giant in that dream. There's another illusion that Oscar Wilde.
Right. Well, sorry, not that I've read that, but I remembered that there was an illusion in there. But
yeah.
So, and then I guess we got to get the idea of Dream's weird morality, because like he doesn't kill all these serial killers. He's just like, well, I'm just going to remove your illusions, and then you have to go back into the world. But I remember like with Dr. Destiny, right? He was so kind to him after everything that had happened. He just gets this distant. He's like, actually, I can't really blame you for what happened. There is that moment where that thing that he does, that he can be so reasonable and calm and maybe kind of nice or merciful. I guess there's a sort of mercy in this.
Yeah.
And then at other times he's just fucking ruthless.
Well, there's like, you said that though that's part of his pride, right? Anytime he's been overly ruthless or reactionary, is typically on a comment or something where he personally felt slighted. Like he kind of goes off. If everybody just shuts up and lets him do whatever his tasks are, you get sort of a half-ass pass on existing in a you can live on in a tortured future. That's fine. Dreamless. Whether or not that's better or worse, I guess, is arguable also.
I'm glad you said that, because there is. Yeah, I mean, like, on the one hand, they're a bunch of murderers, but on the other hand, like, now they're just like regular people, and they lack psychopathic traits.
Yeah.
And so they have to kind of deal with that. But I don't know. Like, I guess maybe that. Yeah, go on.
I just think part of the answer to that is the implication that the Corinthian is the first serial killer within this world. So, like, what he inspired in humanity is exactly that. Like, serial killers exist because he entered the world.
Yeah, which is stupid.
I agree.
Sorry, I really don't care.
It.
Yeah, and I'll one version or one thought about it that I do like is the idea that the Corinthian is also the origin of the fear of stranger rape. The idea that you're walking down the street and you're going to be like faced by sexual assault. And generally speaking, statistically, it does happen, but it is not how sexual assault works. But it is the popular understanding of how sexual assault works, and so the Corinthian is that sort of that fear that overrides like a proper understanding of a circumstance, and specifically with respect to like women and sexuality. And that makes sense to me. But this idea of the serial killers, like, not only is it uninteresting, because it just is to me, I don't know, it just doesn't do as much work as it could.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I'm disappointed about. Like, you just could have got so much more out of that.
There's that always that idea of like shitty stories will posit, what if Nazis happened because some supernatural plague entered the world, and it's like, well, now you've just taken the moral responsibility away from people, and that's just not, it's not good storytelling.
Yeah. Like, are there no more serial killers ever again because of this?
Exactly, right?
Are they all done? Seems unlikely to me. Yeah. So, all right. The final bit, where I guess it's still the final two issues when it's coming to a close. We're starting to, like, we understood that Rose was the vortex, but it's not manifested itself yet. And then it starts to. And the reason that we have so many people in that fucking house, so many weird people, is so that way we can have so many weird dreams. And to start having them, like, smashed together. And I think Dringenberg, fucking really A+. These are so interesting. They're so well. James, what do you have the collection in front of you? Like, do you have the paper collection?
Yeah.
On page 191. I just want your opinion on, like, how this is done, and because it's a different style, and every once in a while throughout all of these, when, like, he did it with the serial killers and he does it in the dreaming, and this is just a good example, it becomes sort of the coloring changes, there's more shading, it takes on a different style when he does these little bits, and even, like, signs them.
Yeah, like this one almost goes into that one almost goes into, like, photorealistic.
Yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah, it takes, but it isn't, obviously, like, it's more of a Sienkiewicz kind of thing, but it's not like fuck, I don't know. Wish I had a better art description, but he just does this throughout the series, and it's so interesting.
Well, there's that one a couple pages later where Rose goes into, like, there's an actual vortex that looks like he's, like, painted.
Oh, it looks amazing.
Yeah.
And it's very cool. That's and then Morpheus comes in to, like, to speak to her.
Mm-hmm.
I personally feel like this is maybe, like, the first brilliant issue of Sandman. Love it. And not just the art. The tech, like the text is so important in this series, and like, it's Klein, right? Todd Klein.
Todd Klein, yeah.
Yeah, like, he just brings it, and so, like, even Morpheus's speech, like, I just picture that, like, intoning in your head, and just, like, the look of it is so distinctive and makes the character. But does. Like, in this one here, that when Ken is dreaming, and you got this, like, kind of computer looking type talking, money boy, are listening to me, maybe 10, maybe 100 thou, and it's just going on and on, this, like, weird stilted, like, dissolving speech. It looks really neat.
Yeah, and there's, like, all sorts of sort of political considerations tied up in that. Like, he kind of looks like Ronald Reagan, but, like, a zipper mouth Ronald Reagan, and there's all this like stock data behind him, and and then you, like, he's Ken and Barbie, so he's the Mattel figure, and it's, again, layers. There's a layer going on here.
Fuck, I never even thought about this before, but of course, Ken and Barbie, I always thought that was kind of dumb, but dolls, they are dolls, literally.
Yes, yeah, right, yeah. And then Barbie's dreamscape is, again, we see Gaiman's inventiveness here.
It's so playful.
Yeah, the porpentine, and like there's, like, he's
that's coming back, by the way.
Oh, shit!
Princess Barbara. She's gonna be a major character in I think the 4th volume, the 5th.
No fucking shit. Yeah. Oh my goodness, forgot about that completely. Well, that's great.
Yeah, and the playfulness of the Chantel's dream. Chantel is having a relationship with a sentence, and it's like gets translated into Czech for political reasons. It's like it's so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I didn't make much of any. I thought the the Rose kind of death. We waited the whole book to have her speak to Morpheus, to have him tell us she's gonna die. And then it's just like defused because Gilbert barges in there like an idiot, and then he gets like basically just dismissed, and then she has to accept death again, and then her mom barges in there or whatever.
Yeah, the grandmother.
Or the grandmother, excuse me, and Unity, and then it's just like, Rose can't die. I'm here to save her. Take my life instead. Never. Beat it, Gilbert. Rose can't die. Take my life instead. Who the fuck? What? Unity? I don't know.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah,
it did feel a little bit fucking hokey. I was waiting for the Kool-Aid man to break in. Oh yeah, take me instead. Fuck, what? What are we doing? I don't know. But yeah, I did feel like that was a bit diminished because of that, because it was a cool moment. But that was kind of the end. And then after that was just kind of tapered off.
But again, getting and I feel that I'm going to keep coming back to this idea. They're the sort of feminism of the text, and like she's like, I don't understand, and she's like, of course you don't understand. You're a fucking idiot. You're obviously not very bright, and I shouldn't let it bother you. And there's this idea that Unity, in a moment of sort of feminine intuition, and maybe there's not something feminist about that at all, just understands that like she sort of magically, miraculously in the process of almost dying, understands that it ought to have been her in the first place. She was the original, and that she's dying anyway, and so she's going to save the life of Rose by just like taking on the mantle as she passes naturally. But this is getting back to the idea that this is not Dream's story exactly. He's really lost in this moment. He thinks he's there to do one thing, and then he's like completely just like two women are like, actually, this is what's happening, and we really don't need you, and goodbye. And he kind of is sort of left with that, and that's kind of maybe why it feels like kind of a letdown, and then he's so pissed off afterwards. He's like, wait a minute, I just got fucked.
And then he the other thing too is weird that he like, then in that instance he swoops down kind of disrobed and everybody rubs up on him. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to read into that, but
wait a minute.
That's
what are you talking about?
That's just like how he presented himself in those scenes.
Oh, it's true. He is like,
he's like, he's shirt.
Yeah, he's just like unleashed, Yeah.
It's like a Fabio moment.
Yeah,
he's
just
opening
like
up,
masking the weens down.
Yeah, you're right,
man. The drobes. I'm getting a little bit of dick root on the sides, and then Unity's like kind of touching up on him, and I'm like, what? We're sexualizing him now, and that's odd to interpret. But it was not in any of the text. It was just in the art.
Actually, you know what? Yeah. On the next page too, when he swoops in, he kind of grabs her face, like, and it's like this sort. It looks like
the Rose
kind of goes
moment. Spread eagle at one point, and it's just odd that it and then got sexual.
Her robes are kind of coming undone too, right? It's like this like ravishment moment.
Yeah, like is it like he's gonna kill her by like sexually assaulting her? And she's like, stop that.
It seemed a little consensual. It seemed.
Well, I don't know. Well, maybe in the art, maybe not. What, the face where she's like, for Christ's sakes, just do it.
No, there we go. Yeah, and the spread scene too. The spready.
Yeah. I don't know what are you talking about?
What, you don't remember the spready?
I don't recall this. That's okay. Shit, I see it. Yeah, we both will. But she leans back or whatever, and
page 205. Treat yourself.
Yeah. I see it. You're right.
So
anyway, not sure. Just putting that in my back bank for later in
the. To build on the idea that Morpheus being kind of thwarted, when Rose takes out her heart, it's in the form of the in the original opening story, the African story. There's like the city shatters into glass and they all look like heart pieces. I think they're inert too. I think they're like kind of colorless. But she pulls out this kind of glowing, glittering, like red heart, hands it over. It's passed between two women, and then it's almost like not an overt fuck you, but like it's a symbol of his greatest failure with women that's being passed, but and he's not included in that moment.
Yeah. It's a blue heart in the earlier story, and it's not shining or whatever, but still though, it's there. And it's also kind of it's the mark of desire, within this. And she's, it's the symbol of, not to be like perfectly obvious, but it is perfectly obvious, the desire lives in the heart. And it's both a curse, but it's also what you say it is, though, like an exchange, between two women where like because that heart is connected to his awful treatment of women.
Yeah, exactly. His failure. Yeah. And it sort of inspires the next motion of the story too. So I had never thought about that before, but yeah.
Yeah. And then Rose. Okay, so one thing I like about the recoloring is that Rose gets hair that isn't stupid all the time. Xylanol, who recolors it, he does a good job, like just making it less like really, really. You're just like, who would walk around with their hair like that? But so then Dream kind of pieces it together and goes to visit Desire and threatens her. And there's this idea that she's trying to get him the trick, the ultimate trick that she's trying to the thing that she's trying to get him to do is to spill the blood of one of their family members, which again, getting back to like, that's classical tragedy shit. And that's it. That's her end game all the time. She's just like, I just want you to kill a family member. That's all. So so that way you can be fucking destroyed. Because why not? And and he's just like, and I already said my piece about him cracking and so already sort of entering into that other space, but and you get the sense that he is more powerful than her. She's smarmy and bratty, but then he's like he's very like abusive in this moment. I know she's being really shitty, right? Like, let's be clear, but like he strokes her chin, he's threatening around her neck, and he pulls her hair. And
so far it's been pretty well established though that he's the most powerful of any of the siblings. I didn't get any indication. I know like logic dictates he's not more powerful than Death, but I didn't get any indication that he wasn't.
Yeah. It's because Death is a soft touch, but I think in some of the, well, I don't know, they talk about the Sunless Lands and stuff. Like, it's clear that she is the nice face of a much more powerful, I don't know, metaphysical, whatever, complex or whatever. I don't know.
She's still I think we are meant to understand that he's less powerful because he's the younger brother.
Well, I mean, and I'm probably jumping ahead on information
I don't
sort of yet to come, but
no, I don't think so. I think it's an interesting thing. I think it invites that thought, because like, who cares if he's the younger brother, right? He could still be more powerful. That happens all the time. But I think if we think of this as a sort of whoever the firstborn is if it's a hierarchy of power that has something to do with like who's born first, who emerges first, like there's sort of an eminence. Everything flows down from a point, from God, from the beginning, from the one. And Dream is like theoretically the third, but he's not the second or the first, so it implies that he's not the. Anyway,
that sounds exactly right to me. Yeah, I think that's how it works.
Yeah, but still, though, like, it really doesn't fucking matter, because like Death, if I recall correctly, like we saw Death in the Hobbs story, but like she's just this like peripheral presence, like, and she'll show up from time to time, but she's not someone we fuck around with much, which is a good thing, because that's the last thing you want to become understandable, or familiar, like,
Yeah.
it cheapens it.
Sorry, it just occurred to me. We know for a fact, because when Dream is captured initially, and
Right.
It says, like,
Yeah.
I was trying to catch Death, and he's like, well, thank goodness that you didn't do that.
Yes.
You would have had a much harder time.
Yeah. Would have been a big deal. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. So I'm really glad you like this. You love this as much as you did, James. I was concerned, because I was like, I like this, but I was like, is James gonna like this? Like, I don't know. I didn't know when it was gonna hit you.
Yeah, I'm ready to roll now. I'm ready to grab book 3 and keep on trucking.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of
Nice.
excited to get into my $1 million portion of this library here.
There was one book that's contained, like, these deluxe editions. They have all the bells and whistles, and so there is a Sandman mystery theater story written by Neil Gaiman, plotted by Matt Wagner, from a story by Wagner and Gaiman, painted by Teddy Christensen, cover art by Dave McKean, and I got to say, it was kind of a drag. I don't want to talk about it, but
Which one's that in?
It's in volume 1 of the deluxe editions.
Oh, of the deluxe? Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
because some of them, the one I got was quite good. I think it's book 3, actually, I think, is the good one, because it's just 3 straight trade paperbacks.
Right.
The other ones are strung out more.
Mhm.
Because that's like 5, 6, 7, and then there's only 8, 9, 10 left. But somehow I have 2 more volumes of this.
There's a lot of offshoots that Gaiman had did throughout all of this. There's a lot of little mini series and stuff. Like, it all ties in together. Not the peripheral stuff it's not essential, but it's, this Sandman story, the Sandman mystery theater story. It's like the original Sandman, whatever this fucking name was. He encounters, Sandman in the glass jar, during some sort of mystery or that he's solving or something like that. I don't know. It's fine. It looks okay.
I'm not.
It's not you don't gotta read it.
I'm not bummed to have it though.
Yeah.
Like, I'm happy I went this route to finish my collection rather than sort of just going individual trades. I think that'll be more of a nice thing to have.
Yeah. So I don't know. It kind of feels dumb to do guilty or innocent on every trade that we're gonna do. Yeah, but it was good.
That
was a great time.
That was great. That was far better than Preludes and Nocturnes. And if Preludes and Nocturnes makes you sad after you start reading The Sandman, keep going.
There we go.
From a newbie.
Good advice.
Very good advice.
So I guess next time, like, surprise, we're going to do Sandman Volume 3, which is Dream Country. That's a short one. It's like 4 issues, right?
Yeah, they're all one-shots.
Yeah, so we'll have a 4 one-shot excitement extravaganza. Anyone watch the Sandman show yet?
Oh, man. I'm stalled on the first episode. I watched it. I'm gonna keep going. I'm just trying to find time where I can watch it with Julia, because that's time's been in demand lately. But it was okay. I'm holding judgment. Oh, the thing I liked about it, as much as I think that guy looks like a bit of a Zoolander goof, like when he does his Morpheus face, his voice is great. Like, it's deep, which I didn't expect, and I think that's about as good as you're gonna get for the character. There were some just like hokey touches, like Morpheus cries in captivity, and I was just like, I just burst out laughing because it just makes no sense. Morpheus would never, spill a tear. But it seems okay for TV. I really don't know what I'm expecting. Like I know that the book is going to be the better, more perfect form of it, but I guess you just kind of want to see if it'll do it any justice, and I'm on the ride for that, I guess.
Yeah. That reminds me. Sorry, I know we're trying to close up here, but we haven't talked about. You said it a little bit about Morpheus's speech, like his balloons, and one thing that's like, and I know this. I honestly don't know how often or ever if this was done in comics, but to have the speech balloon not be white. I know it's so stupid. It's such a but he exists in some sort of inverse to everybody else's speech. And he's the only person with a black speech balloon and white letters and that craggy exterior. There's something of like his voice is an inversion of voice. His voice is like this absence and presence of voice simultaneously within the sort of comics, within the ontology of comics, like within that space where the conventions exist. It's such a simple thing, and it's so perfect. It's so perfect because even Death doesn't speak like that. I don't think anybody else does either.
It's so cool. Yeah.
No, and it's a dumb effect. In like logically, but then it's also like, you can also, it's also very cool, and you can overthink it. You can say like, oh, when he's speaking, it you're paying more attention to it, or he's touching you, like he's speaking to you in your dreams and directly. So anyway, but
yeah, no, it's a thing, like, and it's definitely part of the character. And I think Chris, I thought of it as you said it, and I was like, I crossed my fingers. I was like, okay, I'm going to bring that up, and then it got lost. And so I'm glad we came back to that, because it's just really an important part of that character, and one of the reasons I think that it works so well. It's not the reason, but it's just like part of the overall package that is the Sandman, which made it so unique and so successful. And yeah, so if anyone has ever heard of this Sandman comic, you might want to consider reading it, because I know it's not very well known, and we'll help you guide you through this unknown text the next time you see us.
Now, all we need is a little energon and a lot of luck.